Abiola, are you there? Okay, looks like Abiola has some challenges, so I will redeem time and present on her behalf.
Okay.
If that's all right with you, I'll do that.
Yes,
Please
yes,
let
please.
me
Yes.
advise me if you can see my screen, please.
Indeed, we can see your screen.
All right. Okay. So it's about documenting best practices, and very much in the spirit that over the years, Africa has gained a lot of wealth of knowledge, information, experiences, some of which could help in terms of reconstructing Africa's plans and development efforts going forward. And we want to do a structured process of picking up these lessons learned and indeed presenting them back into the planning and development processes of the country. So it's very much from that perspective to draw inspiration, to pick up these innovation solutions, homegrown solutions, and looking at those areas which have impactful results that could be replicated and upscaled in different parts of the continent. So the objective is really to bring about these practices to scale and to support peer learning, mutual support, collective review, and all very much in line with accelerating the achievement of Agenda 2063. We also then underscore the fact that a lot can be learned from within the member states, but also from between member states. So within member states, we know full well that you have different platforms at different levels. Like we mentioned earlier, there are sector working groups. For example, in some countries, there are public expenditure review platforms. In others, there are, ministerial or sectoral level, areas where you come and have a reflection on. But between countries, and here we take a particular emphasis and particular example, and this is a real example, it's not hypothetical. In the first iteration of the report, which was submitted in 2020 at the margins of the summit, Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea scored the same rates. I mean, they scored the same figure of 43%. 43%, that was the score overall. But when you look critically, you will then get to understand that actually there are certain areas where Cote d'Ivoire may be scored very well, which Guinea did not score very well, or vice versa. That Cote d'Ivoire did not score very well, but Guinea scored very well. And there is a possibility, since we have used as much as possible the notion of benchmarking, standardization, comparison, we could actually start twinning some of these countries to learn from one another. So a typical example, when you look at healthy and well-nourished citizens, Cote d'Ivoire did not perform very well. But on the same tenets, Guinea reports that it actually performed very well, very well. And we took time to get into the narratives of these two country reports. And we actually realized that Cote d'Ivoire can learn a lot from Guinea, because I think they had some policy orientation on how they address the issue of healthy and well-nourished citizens, and how best they then operationalize that in concrete implementation arrangements. In the same manner, we took another example, engaged and empowered youth and children, where Guinea did not perform very well, scored I think 21%, but we see that Cote d'Ivoire again did extremely well, extremely well. So bringing these two countries on specific tenets and allowing them to grow a learning from one another could be of critical importance, and hence the initiative to have a structured learning of what is happening. Okay, so what is the best practice? We say the best practice is a practice, a technique, a method that has been tested, tried, and proven true to work well and produce sustainable results, and hence can be qualified to be a model, something that could be looked at, or better still, as a benchmark. And there are several ideas around these principles. By the way, we are sharing this with you, this particular presentation, with the hope that if the youth can eventually find a slot at the margins of the AU Summit, that hopefully the youth will, beyond the recommendations, the policy recommendations, if the youth could come up with the 2, 3, 4 best practices or innovations that they would want to showcase at that level, emanating from your work as youth, that would be extremely useful, because it then goes beyond, the paperwork into something concrete that could be leveraged, upscaled, or replicated. So in terms of the principles, what is the character, form, and nature of a best practice? We said it should provide a method or technique that has consistently shown good results. So there's the notion of consistency, rather than by chance. 2, that it does then give a set of guidelines, ethics, or principles that represent the most efficient course of action, value for money, and indeed results. Thirdly, is that it's based on evidence. There's some kind of empirical rigor behind qualifying it to be a best practice. So it's not found fact. And 4, that it can evolve and indeed become better as improvements are discovered. That it's work in progress, and evidently there is space and room for getting better and better. And then lastly, that it can be maintained, it can be used to maintain high quality and efficiency. So in terms of criteria, we are saying it needs to meet at least the issues of efficiency, value for money, the conversion rate of inputs to outputs must be proven high, ethical soundness, that it lends itself to the principles that respect, for example, privacy and sovereignty and so on and so forth. Relevance to the context, and here we are talking about Agenda 2063, and evidently the issue of replication. A very quick example, and I'll give just one example of the poultry farmer schools in Lebanon. Why we just want to emphasize this is that it shouldn't be a whole thesis, a whole big document. It can be as small as just this one page. So typical example, so poultry farmer field schools in Lebanon. So 1, they provide the context, they provide the challenge that that is being faced. They provide the methodological approach that has been used to address the challenge. They provide the impacts or the emerging impacts, emerging results, outcomes, outputs as a result of the intervention. They allude to issues of sustainability. How is that practice going to be sustained? Or at least, how are the effects, the results, the benefits of that practice going to be sustained? The practice may die out, but how are you going to sustain the results? And then lastly, what are the considerations for replication, for scale-up, for expansion of the practice, whether within the same locality, same context, or other contexts? What are the considerations that one would need to make? So for that reason, we came up with a set of guidelines. They are not cast in stone, and they should only serve as checklists, not necessarily to be, glued to. So one is identifying the practice or the title and description of the practice. So if you're writing, the title should stick to the content. They said the label is as important as the labeled. So the title should be catchy and the title should be quite revealing of what is contained in the practice. A brief description. Two, so what is the problem being addressed? Like in the other best practice, they are talking about the challenge, what population is affected, what are the objectives and targets of implementing the practice. The third element is implementation of the practice. What are the main activities? For how long have these activities been carried out? Where are the major implementers and collaborators? Like I said, it's a checklist, not that you have to follow everything. The fourth thing has to do with the results to date. What are some of those immediate, short-term, medium-term, long-term results? They could be emerging, so they are not yet fully matured, but at least there is hope that they will be, coming through. The fifth thing has to do with the lessons learned and success factors. What have you learned as a result of, doing what you are doing within the realm of the best practices? What worked well and why? What could have been done differently? What did not work well? The sixth thing has to do with innovations, adaptability, and assimilation. What are those features that make it stand out as a best practice? Why do you actually even qualify it to be a best practice? And how has the practice contributed to innovations in the thematic or geographical area of operation? And lastly, the recommendations. What are the key considerations if the practice is to be replicated elsewhere successfully? This could be from the policy side, regulatory side, financing side, implementation side, partnership side, or right downstream into the assimilation, uptake, and indeed utilization side, that whole spectrum. So that's about the best practice. Like we said, it could be just a page or maximum 2 pages that you may want to document. And where possible, if the summit says physical, where possible, that you can carry some of the facets of that innovation, it would be very good that we can look at it. Now, the last slide has to do with the COVID-19. Like we said, the Agenda 2063 second biennial report would definitely be incomplete without a narrative on how the African continent has engaged and been impacted by COVID-19, as well as its response to this pandemic. We know that various things are happening. Like we said before, there are, containment measures, prevention measures, fiscal and monetary measures that are being put in place. There are, social measures, providing food to the and so on. So we would want to have an appreciation of what is happening, but this time around, very much from the youth perspective. And we have a set of 5 questions only that might guide. Again, these are guiding questions. So the first one is, what sectors and development outcomes have been most affected by, by the pandemic, and how? Number 2, what are those 3 major priorities for the youth in Africa in fighting against this pandemic and its gruesome effects? And 3, what would you say should be the youth-sensitive policy measures that should be put in place to mitigate the effects of the pandemic, of the outbreak? And 4, what challenges do you envisage in fight against COVID-19? So we very well know that youth are not just spectators, youth are doing a lot. within the IT space, within, the innovation, science, technology space, and various other domains as part of the efforts responding to the pandemic. So as you do that, what do you envisage as the 3-4 key challenges, and how do you hope you'll get over these challenges? What kind of support might you need from our the policymakers at the highest level? And then lastly, what are the lessons that we draw from the fight against COVID-19? And again, this is not limited to any particular domain. You may want to unravel it across the entire trajectory, socioeconomic dimensions, financial, programmatic sides, and so on and so forth. What are the key lessons that you draw? So these are the two things that, Madam Program Director, I wanted to briefly share with you, and I beg to submit. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Simon. Actually, yes, we are facing so many challenges now. COVID-19 is there to just emphasize that we need technology, we need human development, and we still have a lot of work to do in order to create the social and economic wealth. Maybe we will have our dear Abdullah for this part of the best practices.
Sorry, Abdullah is committed. She's just sent a message, she's not available. But evidently she'll be available to provide additional support on this particular thing. She's very passionate about it, being the head of knowledge management at Africa Union Development Agency, NEPAD. She will definitely provide additional follow-up support on demand. So I think take that as a commitment on our part. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much, dear Simon. Maybe we will have, let's have some questions or remarks from the, okay, Fatoumata. I think Fatoumata still have questions maybe about this new session. Fatoumata, the mic is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Simon, for that presentation. It is well explained. My question is not about this session, but something that came up, and I would like if Mr. Simon can at least elaborate more on it, if that's okay.
No, that's fine by me, Fatmata. That's fine by me. Carry on.
Okay, thank you very much. One of the areas that is going to be targeted by the 2063 agenda is going to be on unemployment, which has a direct connection with immigration, in my own opinion. You know, we are seeing that a lot of youth are moving away from Africa, going to Europe and other countries to find better life and greener pastures because of unemployment in Africa. They feeling that their government is failing them. So how is there any ways of the UN actually tackling this issue, because it's a really serious issue? Yesterday, me and my friend were talking about the immigration and how it's impacting Africa. So is there any ways of the US, the AU tackling these issues while retaining the human resources that we have, the human capital as youth in Africa, for providing them the various forms of employment, whether formal or vocational? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatmata. I guess, Program Director, with your permission, I'll ask my my big sister Josephine
Yes.
to kindly address this this issue. Thank you very much, Josephine, please.
Thank you so much.
Josephine.
Thank you. Thank you, Program Director. Thank you, Simon. And thank you very much, Madam Fatumata, for your question. It really shows you're thinking a lot about the issues pertaining to Agenda 2063 and how support is being made in terms of ensuring that the challenges the youth are facing are actually addressed. At the moment, there are a number of processes that are being implemented to ensure that the level of migration of youth out of Africa is more or less controlled. In the morning, when our colleague Charles went through the various AU reforms, I think one of the main youth reform is that of increasing the youth quota in the African Union as a whole. And that is mainly to ensure that I think 35% or something. I know it's still a small percentage, but it's an increase from the previous. A 35% target of youth employment is the target that the African Union has set under the African Union institutional reform process by 2023. At the moment, I don't know what it stands, but I know that to ensure that that target is realized, we have a number of programs. We have the African Youth Corps, whereby employment opportunities are sought within the continent and youth are deployed. And that is mainly by our Department of HRST, that is the Human Resource Science and Technology Department. So it coordinates that process with the respective member states, with the respective departments within each of the member states. In addition to that, the Social Affairs Department is engaging seriously to ensure that the migration policy addresses the current challenges in terms of ensuring that previously we even didn't have the statistics, but we are liaising at the moment with the International Office of Migration, that's IOM, with the International Labour Organization, to ensure that there is more statistics in terms of the numbers getting out of Africa to seek employment. And also we have a more coordinated approach in which better employment opportunities are provided within the continent. So a number of programs are being implemented. I can't say it's sufficient at the moment, because even I'm aware that we have not realized the target that was set within the institutional reform process. But I know that a number of key stakeholders that are responsible for youth employment issues, migration issues, are engaging seriously to ensure that the youth are better employed in better places. In addition to that, the youth corps, there's also the annual youth processes that are within, whereby internships are given to at least more than 100, I know between 100 and 150 youth within the African Union. And that is a process that was started a number of years ago, and it's still ongoing. The only challenge right now probably is the restrictions due to COVID, but I'm sure that that process is normally inbuilt within the various programs. Some of the youth are employed within the Commission, others are in the different organs of the African Union. So those are the processes that I can remember right now to ensure that in terms of employment of youth, we are increasing the youth quota every year. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Josephine, for the clarification. Maybe Amin had a question about how could we implement activities taken in consideration the pandemic COVID-19, and how could we have efficient activities during this transitive phase.
Thank you very much, Madam Program Director. I hope my colleague Boitmelo is available to have some reflections. Boitmelo, are you there?
I think she's there.
Madam Boitmelo?
No, she's there.
She could be having, she's mute. Boitmelo, if you're speaking, please unmute if you're there. Okay, she may be having issues. So without a shadow of doubt, there is no single answer to that very big question. It's a question that we are all applying our minds to. And we know, and we should applaud our governments for the work they are doing. As mentioned before, a lot of legal, regulatory, institutional measures have been put in place to address some of the very huge impacts that have come. But also our governments have also dedicated quite some resources. Within the fiscal and monetary space, they have readjusted, reallocated, recalibrated the investment options, very much gravitating towards the health sector and other related areas. Evidently, this is not a sector-specific problem. It is a systemic issue. It impacts, it has ripple effects across the board. But as part of the efforts, looking at the entry point, I think the health sector has received a particular focus. The issue around disease prevention and containment measures, the vaccinations, the innovations around, finding cures and so on. All these are commendable. And evidently, the social and humanitarian measures as well. We want to commend that. But that was said, the way I understand the comment from our brother is that yes, governments are doing what they are doing. But what is it that we as youth can continue to do in our respective spaces without folding our hands and leaving it to despair? And I think that's a critical thing. So what comes to my mind, initial thoughts, are three things. One is that we go back to the just ended, the just concluded presentation, being creative, being innovative, being looking out for those practices that that produce the greatest yield for a single dollar. So how can we use our knowledge in a very strategic manner to come up with significant impacts? So the use of technology, for example, and this is exactly what we are doing right now, would not have had this event if we had wrapped our hands and said, let's wait until COVID is no more. But thanks to my brother Hatim and the team behind him, Sokana and others, who felt we may not meet physically, but let's meet virtually. The use of technology, the use of innovations, the use of GIS, for example, in terms of collecting data, in terms of, picking up all these things, the use of virtual and hybrid platforms, on-site and online platforms to do various things, knowledge co-creation, sharing knowledge and making sure that there is co-creation, value add in what we are doing. And this could be in 3 different spaces. One is for us to have a very clear business process model. And I think that's the starting point. The what do we want to do? What do we want to do? Clarification, clarity of what we want to do will inform 2 other segments. What we want to do will inform 1, the governance architecture. How are we going to construct this within the framework that is conducive, that is, assuring of the required results in a sustainable manner, and that is aligned and congruent to the results that are featured in Agenda 2063. The second tenet it then begs is people excellence, and I think this is critical in most of our organizations, especially in this COVID pandemic. The issue of safety of staff, well-being of staff, occupational health matters, the notions around ensuring that there is support to the staff, that they do not get into depression, they do not get into isolation, they don't fall back. So that continuous effort to build capacities, to follow up on one another, to support each other, to encourage each other, to inspire and indeed uphold each other in these difficult times. At the same time, ensuring that there is capacity strengthening would be a critical function. So from those 3 tenets, the business process, for me, the what will be critical, and underpinning the what, of course, is the notion of how, but critical and fundamental is looking at then the governance architecture and the business, the people excellence model. These are the initial reflections I'm having, Madam Program Director. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Indeed, I can't agree more. Indeed, the social innovation is about bringing people around a common cause and to co-create a common future through knowledge. Yes, we can create an intellectual communities with knowledge. We can create a peaceful communities with a lot of compassion, and when we understand our vocation here, what we want to do as Africans with our common culture, I think we can make a lot of progress, and we can make 2063 starting from now. Actually, I would love to share that we are pleased to see the passion around us by sharing all this information, and what are the main efforts deployed during years 2013 till now, and we still have work to do, but we are committed indeed to create to co-create a common future that allow African communities to be developed. I think if we have any other question or remarks, we are in a safe space where we can share our opinions and maybe have some proposition indeed to handle all the questions. Yes, Salma. Please.
Hello, do
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I want to really thank you for this amazing presentation. It was really interesting to watch. About my intervention, I will do it based on my experience as a research assistant at the international organization CoronaNet organization that was created during the start of the Corona pandemic. So basically, we are collecting data of all countries all over the world about to know about the measures that they are taking in order to face this pandemic. Talking about vaccination, health monitoring, health resources, etc. So I'm so proud of most of the countries of the world currently because they are taking in consideration measures to face this pandemic, and I believe that youth and African youth chiefly can rock this and can really kill the virus because we it will have an end of sure. And my question is for about the 2063 agenda. What are the current challenges that may face as an African youth in order to achieve this agenda? And thank you.
Thank you, Selma, for your question. Maybe let's have some reflection on this. Mr. Simon has emphasized a lot of dynamic activities so far, but maybe we can have some more reflections on this.
Yes, I think again, Madam Josephine could, with your permission and with due respect, Madam Josephine, maybe. But yes, do you want us to have more questions first and then respond? Because I see Mr. Kisima.
I think
Mr. Kisima
that was the last question, Mr. Amin.
There was a hand, but I think I don't know that he has dropped it.
It was Selma, I think.
Mr. Kisima.
I did raise a hand.
Okay, I didn't see you. Please go ahead. The mic is yours.
All right, thank you. My question here is, what do we see the political structure of Africa in the Agenda 2063? Meaning, like in 2063, what is there any strong structure than the AU that can possibly come out in 2063? If the question has been clear.
Okay, are you asking about if we have another organization or organism that could maybe be more powerful than African Union to take decision about the 2063 agenda? Is this your question?
Exactly, yes, that is
Great.
It.
Okay.
Madam Program Coordinator, there is another hand from Albert Gomez.
Okay, Albert Gomez. Yeah, please go ahead, Mr. Albert.
Okay, my question is this. It's one thing for Africa to develop, and it's also another thing for Africa to develop by dominating its own market. So my question is, are there means that the AU or the AU 2063 agenda is based on whereby Africa will dominate its own market? Because we have seen that we Africans, we prefer importing other products, even though our own fellow Africans have been producing those products in Africa. So what are some of the strategies that have been put in place to discourage these such actions, whereby we'll stop importing from other continents rather than we'll be using our own African products that have been produced in Africa?
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see if we have another hand raised. No. So maybe, okay. Okay, Albert Gomez, you still have question?
Yeah, I do. And my second question is, are there any means that the AU is helping African entrepreneurs or African company giants, like let's say the OCP or other continents, where that will help, where the AU will help them to dominate the global market? Like let's say for Facebook, Google, they are dominating the global market. And Africa as a continent, we have a lot of countries. So is there any plans that the AU is prioritizing in developing African entrepreneurs in order to dominate the world market, like Google and Facebook?
Thank you, Albert, for the questions. Okay, let's see. Okay, maybe that was the last raised hand. Yeah, we have Fatoumata Jarvi. Yes, please, Fatoumata.
Oh, thank you very much. My question is pertaining to the COVID situation of Africa. When the beginning of the COVID pandemic, a lot of Western countries are saying that the continent that is going to be most affected by the COVID pandemic is Africa. And during the as the years as the months progressed, we saw that there is no truth in that statement. It was actually the reverse. And I saw that that is an eye-opening moment for me. And seeing that the Western countries are more suffering than Africa. But even though we had the little fraction of the COVID cases, it still seems that we cannot even solve those, at least vaccinate our own people without the vaccination coming from these Western powers. So, like, is there any ways in which, like, the African Union is sitting down and thinking of how we can actually depend on our healthcare, systems, trying to investing in research and medicine and stuff like that, to be able to create our own vaccinations if there is a need in the future? Or because seeing that how the COVID has crippled so many healthcare, even the healthcare giants, countries like America, France, we see what the COVID is doing to their healthcare. Is there any way that the AU is trying to put mechanisms to actually invest in our health sector? Thank you.
Thank you, Fatoumata. Okay, let me see. I think that was the last question from Fatoumata. We may have the reflection with our dear Josephine or another panelist.
Okay, thank you very much for those brilliant questions. I'll try to respond to a number of them, and then other colleagues within the African Union can also come in. Simon or Buitomelo. I'll start with the last one raised by Madame Fatoumata in relation to the COVID situation in Africa, where